you talking about? Oh, the plate is like this big.
Softball fans, softball sweeties, if you will. I'll throw that one in there today. I'm Sarah Hoffman. I'm in studio. If you watched our last show, Ches said she was going to be in studio with me. Alas, she is not. Let's bring in the one, the only Ches Severs from her apartment in Austin, Texas. She's failed me.
Look, I woke up with a sore throat. I was being cautious. I didn't want to go through that.
I have a strong suspicion I appreciate it. I have a strong suspicion it's Austin allergies, but I appreciate it.
Probably.
And we also have Allie Martinez today. It's like a small little Brady Bunch here.
Yeah, she's still in Salinas Town.
I am.
Blake Jackson.
Still in Blake Jackson.
And Chaz, we got a big-time guest joining us today.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got Alison Strange from the Spring Games. She's not actually at the Spring Games because we all know that's not happening right now. But Alison's joining us live from her RV, going to somewhere. Alison, welcome to Here's the Deal.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
This is a Here's the Deal
absolutely.
First. This is a Here's the Deal First. We have somebody on an RV, and prior to the show, we got Alison to agree to do a show from a boat and from a train next. So that's what you guys can expect from Alison next time you see her on Here's the Deal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, live life. You only get one.
Yeah, totally.
Very true.
Absolutely. Alison, well, thanks so much for joining us. One reason we brought you on the show is the Spring Games has been, well, it's the biggest softball event in the world, but it also is the haven for so many teams during that spring week for competition. And we've seen teams like Augustana, travel to the Spring Games, and then we see them crowned national champions. Could you give us a brief rundown of the Spring Games and how it all started? Just give us a brief history.
Ooh, a brief history of the Spring Games is not that brief, but we were officially formed in 2008 by Dr. Dot Richardson, who, in full disclosure, is my aunt. So there's definitely nepotism in me being where I am. But she had me take over in 2014 when she got the job at Liberty University. And really our ties go back to 1976, the original Rebel Games. Dot was a Rebel playing for the Orlando Rebels when Marge Ricker started the first collegiate Spring Games in Central Florida back in 76. That's actually how she was seen by Western Illinois and ultimately recruited to college, even though she was a high school player. So she played in the first ever Spring Games, and she started the current version of the Spring Games that we now have today. And since she started it in 2008, we had 48 teams the first year. And this year, but for the coronavirus shutdowns, we had 474 unique colleges with 508 total teams, including the JV squads that they brought. Is that brief enough? Keep going.
You nailed it.
That was too long.
Yeah, I think you did a great job just boiling that down. I was sitting on the edge of my seat listening to all of it. I thought it was great. You mentioned COVID, and you were there when COVID cancellations hit teams. Spring Games was going on when the NBA when everything was happening with COVID. Yeah. So you were there on the ground. What was it like witnessing teams realizing this was their final event or this was their final game of the season or potentially their career, and it was happening at the Spring Games?
It was gut-wrenching. That's the only way that I can describe it. It's why I'm in an RV traveling the country right now, because it was horrible. And I've always been very sensitive to the end of an athlete's career. I love to see a more successful, more profitable professional level for women in our sport. I never had the opportunity to play pro myself, and there was no opportunity to do it. And so that last game I'm very sensitive to the last game, and it's never at the spring games. We're always the first game of the season. We're the excitement of what's to come. And on Friday the 13th, our 13th year in business, I went to the ball fields, and ladies, it was quiet. There were 5 games going on, and it was silent. All you could hear was the pop of the ball and the bat hitting the ball, and it was eerie. It was awful. I went back. I was actually on rest. I was well into 9 months, and I went back to my house, and I hopped on the computer, and I got on all of our different communication tools with our fans and our coaches and our umpires, and I said, from now on, however long this lasts, every day is senior day. So we just had every day game was senior day, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I think there was a lot of closure for players and the coaches who were there the next couple of days. But it was rough.
I mean,
Yeah.
what a powerful image in my head of and the sound, like how you're describing it. It I think heart-wrenching is probably the only way to describe that. The fact that you were able to give some of these people just a little bit by making a senior day, impromptu senior day, is actually pretty amazing and pretty incredible.
No, I totally agree with that.
Thank you.
And
I still...
Oh, go ahead, Alison.
Oh, I was just still get worked up when I think about it. I was in shock at the time, and it's still emotional for me. And I think a lot of softball is still in shock, really.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's a reality we've never had to face as a sport, and no one has the right answer, and we're all just trying to figure it out. When I've kind of, with the Ches show and talking with some of these high school athletes, I think for me was a time where it kind of really registered emotionally, with players who were on the verge of breaking records, not being able to finish out their season. It's just it's heartbreaking. But also, on the flip side, the amount of optimism and positivity, looking forward to the future and getting back on the field, is something that I just continue to love about the sport. And it's their ability to find the silver lining in things, to take Alani Alameda kind of quote from earlier this week.
And going off of that and speaking towards the future, I had a question for you, Alison, if possible. How do you see COVID impacting the way teams travel next year and beyond?
Oh, it looks like we're having a little bit of a connection issue. So hopefully we can have things smooth out here.
It's the Wi-Fi on the RV, man. Wait, we're getting you a little bit. I hear you coming in and out.
We'll give it a minute.
I can hear the RV.
Oh, you can. So that's a good sign.
There we go.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
We're back.
There she is. They hit a pothole. They had to take a detour.
Yeah, well, we're in the mountains. Yeah, I think that it's going to definitely impact teams next year, and it's going to vary by division. So Division 1 is still kind of sorting out what they're doing at the Cubble. A lot of the Division 2s are looking at their conferences and how the conferences are going to be playing and how they're going to be traveling together. So Division 2 is the only one that I think is still somewhat in flux. Division 3 is traveling. The reality of Division 3 is if you take athletics out of the school, there is no school. Most of these athletes, they're not on scholarships. So the value of coming to that school is the opportunity to be able to play sports. And it seems like JUCO is about the same and NAIA is about the same. So really, I think where you're going to see the most variation from what you're used to is Division I and Division II. Did you catch that? I don't know what's coming through. I see everything.
Yeah, yeah.
We got it. So,
I got it. Yeah, yeah. No, that's valuable information, especially as there's like a number of high school athletes who are trying to make a decision on what they do for the next year or two. So, I mean, having an understanding of like where those teams are going to be is absolutely critical. I know that you're a planner, and what? And the spring games is, I mean, it's an absolute beast, and I know it's kind of even hard to think about or even fathom what the 2021 spring games is going to look like. But do you anticipate making any sort of changes, or are you preparing in any other way or for any changes down the line for the spring games?
Well, we're always preparing for changes for the spring games. That's just critical when you have as many teams as we have. I think specifically related to travel questions for 2021, if that's what you're really asking, how it's going to impact the teams. Absolutely. We're really not putting any pressure on the teams to commit. We're not putting any pressure on the teams to pay their registration fees. We're not putting any pressure on them until it comes down to our drop dead date, which is going to be into September. Between now and then, we are putting pressure on them to continue to communicate with us so we know what they're dealing with and what they're up against. And that's pretty much every conversation I have with coaches right now is, just getting ready for 2021. On the event side, we're preparing for an amazing year. We want now more than ever, it's important that we have fans come to support. I hate to say support the spring games or support the players, because really what we want to do next year is really get fans recognizing these women as athletes and coming out to watch them, because that's what we need to be seeing in 2021 more than ever, is to make sure that people know that softball's here, it's fun to watch, and we're still hoping to produce 1,600 games next year, if not more.
You mentioned the drop dead date in September. Explain to everybody watching what that drop dead date is and what that means for you and the spring games.
Yeah, we schedule by hand. So we look at every team's wish list and everything that they're looking for and what they want to achieve. And every team is different. And we schedule that by hand. So every single game that you see on the final schedule was touched by myself or one of my staff. And the last possible, really, we have to start that by October 1st if we have several hundred teams. So September 15th becomes the date for us to be able to analyze the schedule, put together the tournament schedule, and then from there we go into the individual team schedules. And historically, the teams want their schedule before the January NCAA reporting date. So if we start in October, we can be done by December and have it to them in plenty of time. If we wait any longer, it starts to run into that January date, and we like to make sure that we can turn that around. It takes about 2 months.
Got it. That makes sense. You mentioned the importance of people coming out, not just to support the spring games, but to support these softball players as female athletes. And you and Dr. Dot Richardson have talked about creating more opportunities for women in sport. Where do you see women impacting the growth of softball or women in sport?
Women, can you ask that different?
Yeah, how you and Dot Richardson have been proponents of making more opportunities for women in sport, and how do you see what you do with the spring games as an opportunity to move women forward in softball and move women forward in sport?
So I think the spring games is in a unique position to be able to have conversations that historically only very large, quite frankly, male sports are able to have the conversation, male collegiate sports. we produce, from an economic development standpoint, the same or higher numbers than just about every college football bowl in America. And the March Madness is about the only other event, if you consider the entire month of March, that competes with us from a numbers standpoint. And that's just numbers. They're black and white. But corporate America doesn't know who we are. And so I think the spring games, I feel a burden as the owner-operator of the spring games to make sure that I start bringing that information to corporate America so that we can start seeing more exposure for women as athletes, as a sports commodity. And I think people love watching softball. I've never seen someone watch the game that didn't fall in love with it after never having seen it. I've never seen it happen. So I think if we can put the game in front of more people who are making decisions about how to spend 6 figures a year on marketing or on advertising, then we become a platform for all women to be able to, from which they can jump themselves as well. Obviously, there are other sports who have made major headway, and I don't want to discount that at all. But in softball, we've had a pro level since the 70s. And the number of times I see people on social media say, I wish there was a pro level in softball, blows my mind. So I'd like to see a little more exposure there. And that's going to come with corporate dollars and marketing and advertising money. It's that simple.
Love it.
I totally
Thanks,
agree.
Allison.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
thank you so much for the insight on everything with the spring games. I know we're super excited for the 21-21 season, despite COVID and everything like that. But, I feel like you have things set to go, and, I know we're really excited about it. But I do have to ask you one question. I see that you're in an RV, you're going to go hiking. What new hobbies or skills have you developed during quarantine?
Well, I gave birth, so that was one. I actually gave birth naturally in my tub at home. So I think that's a skill that I learned over this.
Hands down, the best answer to this question we've had on the show. Just hands down. We've asked every coach.
Women across the country that are like cringing, like, oh my God, she did it all.
The Kentucky coach found out that she was bad at cooking. You're like, this is by far the best answer we've gotten, without a doubt. You can just stop there, and we're done, and we're good.
I'll stop. Drop.
No. Yeah. That was a mic drop moment for you.
That was amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. Aside from that, is there anything else that you've been doing in quarantine?
Yeah.
You're RVing and giving birth. Is there anything else?
Yeah. Well, we were prepared to do them both at the same time, but that was not necessary. I was able to be at home for the birthing part. But we're actually, I don't like the feeling of being held down or held back, if that makes any sense. So, with everything being shut down with COVID, and the more it seemed like it was possible to get out there, and there's nothing like being out in the open to handle a situation like COVID. I had this RV that was sitting in my driveway because I was going to use it for the World Series events, and I knew I was going to have a newborn. So that's why we had it. That's why we bought it, and it was there just rotting away in my driveway. It really upset me. So I said, all right, kids, get in the van or get in the RV, we're going. And we just started driving, and what we're doing actually is going from school to school. I got bored kind of quick, I guess you could say. So I just started finding my coaches. And so I've been going to all of their stadiums and seeing how they built their facilities and what they did to their facilities and what they've had to do to maintain those facilities. And it's been really awesome. I think I've seen about 20, I've probably seen about so far. And we'll go home at the first week of August. And by then I'm hoping to have seen at least 50 facilities. So that's what I'm doing this summer.
That's amazing.
Wow, that is awesome.
That's so cool.
That's why I'm in the
RV. Well, since you mentioned going to these facilities, which facilities have stood out in your mind, and why should people go and visit them or see them?
Oh my gosh, you won't believe it. An NAIA school. I know most people don't even think, I don't want to knock an NAIA, but it's not the first thing that usually comes to an athlete's mind. Oh my gosh. It is every bit an SEC facility. And I played at the University of Florida. So I'm like, not softball. I actually didn't play softball at the University of Florida. I was on the track and field team. But the facility at Indiana Tech is unbelievable. And then if you're in junior college or you're looking at a junior college, Madison College in Madison, Wisconsin, same thing. It's amazing, these facilities. Northwestern St. Paul at the D3 level was gorgeous and really neat design, where it was next to the football, baseball, and tennis complexes that were built at the same time. So not only are they all at a really high standard, but they're at a really high standard in a really small space, which I can just imagine the energy there. And I've seen a couple of Division I's. Some of the schools have been closed, so I don't necessarily want to comment, but those three I think I can comment on. And it's been, those three jump out at me for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I would definitely say, like, if you're just curious, sorry,
go and check out some of those stadiums. Well, Alison, we like to run a poll with fans at the end of the year, and it looks like we're going to have to open it up to the other divisions in terms of the best stadium in the country. So I'm excited to get that out and get the fans excited about it.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Well, awesome. Alison, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything for people who are watching that want to know more about the spring games? Where should they go?
They can go to thespringgames.com, or we're on Twitter, Instagram. We have a Facebook fan group. That's a really good resource for a lot of people who are, coming or following the event. And, obviously FloSoftball. I mean, we've been with Flo now for 4 years. Are we 4 years? 3 years, 4 years. I don't know.
Time flies when you're having
going
fun,
on for
right?
it, yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
I think it's been 3.
Yeah. I guess it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
3, we didn't get to finish year 3, I don't think. So, but it's behind us now. So yeah, FloSoftball, obviously I love working with this crew. And, everything good that you see, everything that makes us look good really comes from FloSoftball with all the graphics and all the articles that you do on our teams. I really appreciate what you've done for our teams, because that's part of what's helping the recognition.
Well, I mean, I got the gist of that, but
yeah, the last half cut out.
I feel honored and lucky to be able to share their stories and make more people fall in love with the sport. So
yeah,
thank you,
at the
Alison.
end of the day, we share the same end goal, right? Bring more attention to women in sport and women in softball. So I think it's a mutual feeling in terms of the opportunity that we have with the spring games, as well as what we bring to the spring games from your end. So we appreciate you, and
thank you.
We're hoping for full 2021 come next year.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We'll do it.
Awesome. Well, safe travels, Alison.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Alison.
Appreciate you too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Man.
Well,
what a boss.
That was a first. Yeah, I know. She's a total boss.
On an RV, she gave birth during COVID. Like what?
She's a lawyer.
She's a lawyer. Yeah. She's Dr. Dott's
We didn't even
niece.
get into that. Yeah.
She runs the largest softball tournament in the world. I mean,
goals.
Yeah.
Gave birth naturally.
I don't think we have anything else to say. I don't think that there's anything else to say.
No, there isn't much.
I don't think so. That was a treat. That was fun.
Yeah, absolute treat. Well, this week, I don't know, Allie and I have talked about it. There's a lot going on with the Scrapyard and USSSA Pride opening day. As we know now, the players do not want to or will not represent Scrapyard going forward the rest of the summer. So we're still kind of waiting to see what happens with the rest of the kind of exhibition season for those teams. But I'm hoping to find out more information this week and be able to share that with you guys firsthand from some of the players. Just, we need to know the whole story. We need to know how we can support these pro athletes, and some of them are USA Olympians. So, I mean, that's been going on this week. In more softball news, we've got the Top Club National event happening right now.
Literally right now as we speak.
Yeah.
It's going on.
It's happening in Oklahoma, 14U through 18U, some of the top teams in the country. Very excited to see some of these matchups. They're insane right out the gate. Really, really good game so far. And then we've got the Battle on the Diamond Showcase out in Florida, the PGF Southeastern Regional Championship, and then the Big Mama PGF Nationals happening in California. So that's what's going on.
I think we called it the granddaddy of them all last show. Yeah. So it's the Big Mama, it's the granddaddy, it's all genders, it's all important.
Big they, big them.
The biggin. The biggin.
The biggin. The biggin.
Now this is a fun show.
Yeah. It's because you like hanging out with us, Sarah.
I mean, it's more Allie than you.
And I know y'all missed me on Monday. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So rude.
And then Ches said she was going
to... And their internet just kept going out, and I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to,
If Allison can be on a RV and calling, you can figure out your Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
I know.
Totally.
I'm a computer science major. I should have figured it out. I'm sorry. I let y'all down.
Yeah. Wow. Totally. I'm disappointed.
Where'd you go to school? A&M?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe, honestly.
Oh man. All right, y'all. Well, that's the deal for today. And starting next week, we're going back to once a week. I know, I'm sorry. But with these events continuing, we're just going to do once a week.
Wednesdays, right?
And that's it.
It'll be
Wednesday, same time. You know the deal. Later.